All right. Now the sixth question from Mr. Goley.
Okay. In the Gospels, St. Peter, the first pope, committed an act of public apostasy, really, in denying Jesus Christ as, denying he even knew Jesus Christ. Yet he remained pope and wrote two infallible encyclicals. How do you justify that with your position that a public heretic would lose his office? And if a public heretic does lose his office, if he repents, does he regain it?
Well, he's referring to Matthew 16:23, and it's something where,
yeah, the answer to that is very simple, and his problem stems from a misunderstanding of the teaching of the Church. Vatican I declares that St. Peter, the jurisdiction of the papacy, was not conferred upon St. Peter when our Lord pronounced the words of, "You are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church." Vatican I explicitly says that he became the Pope after the resurrection.
And that's why he says, I will give thee. And he says, feed my lambs, feed my sheep, in John 21. That's when, according to the dogmatic teaching of Vatican I, St. Peter became the Pope. He was not the Pope, in Matthew 16. Therefore, when he denied Jesus Christ, St. Peter had not yet assumed the supreme pontificate. That's the explicit teaching of Vatican I, And I can actually find that. Oh, here it is, Denzinger, number 1822. And upon Simon Peter alone, Jesus, after his resurrection, conferred the jurisdiction of the highest pastor and rector over his entire fold, saying, feed my lambs, feed my sheep. Directly refuting the objection there. And as far as regaining the office, a public heretic could only regain the office by a public abjuration of his heresy. If that's assuming he was a pope in the first place. But in the case of the Vatican II antipopes, these guys were not validly elected at all. So that's the answer to that.
2-minute rebuttal.
Yeah. Okay. I guess my point is that there is a dispute whether or not a pope who commits heresy, whether he actually loses his office or not, or whether or not a pope could actually fall into heresy. There were, definitely different opinions on whether or not that could happen. I don't believe we have any I could be wrong on this. I don't think we have any magisterial text that applies to if a pope is a heretic, he will lose his office. Even Paul IV applies to someone who is elected. Is prior to his election, if he's a heretic, he does not gain the office. Also, Paul IV seems to imply that the Pope really doesn't lose his office because he says if a Pope in that same letter, he said in that same bull, he says that if a Pope leads you astray, do not follow him. So there seems to be a dispute on that. I don't really think that's a major point of contention, though. I don't think that the Diamond Brothers have showed in any way that they can get out of this mess. They've repeatedly, I think, dodged the question about how we would get another pope, sheer of God coming down and raining fire in the sky. You have no conclave. You have no valid cardinals. And as time goes on, we're in the, 47th, 48th year, the position gets worse and worse for the Diamonds. I mean, you don't even have any bishops with jurisdiction that you can prove. I mean, there's been no pope for half a century, so how could a bishop have ordinary jurisdiction? Just simply is unfathomable to me. I think that's all I have.
All right, now the sixth question from Brother Michael and Brother Peter Diamond.
The Catholic Church has taught for 2,000 years that non-Catholics may not lawfully receive Holy Communion. As Pope Gregory XVI put it, he who eats the lamb outside this house is unholy. But the Vatican II Church officially teaches that non-Catholics may lawfully receive Holy Communion, as is taught in Vatican II, the New Catechism, the New Code of Canon Law, numerous encyclicals. If the post-Vatican II anti-popes are true popes, how can they officially and authoritatively teach the opposite of the Catholic Church on this point?
I believe in those cases, and I haven't necessarily studied this particular one, but I believe it's the cases. I believe it's the Orthodox can receive communion, and it's only under certain circumstances. I would have a question on whether or not that is a disciplinary matter or whether that is a magisterial teaching that that someone cannot receive communion. I would certainly look into that further. I don't believe that's necessarily a moral teaching that cannot be changed. I would probably assert that is a norm, and it's a disciplinary law. That, but I don't want to sound like I'm absolutely certain on that because I haven't looked into that issue thoroughly. Perhaps if I come back to debate, perhaps we can go over that point.
Okay, he's not sure because there's no answer. A true pope cannot teach that non-Catholics may lawfully receive Holy Communion because that's been condemned by the whole tradition of the Church. As Pope Pius VIII said, "He who eats the lamb outside this house will perish as those during the flood who were not with Noah in the ark."
Pius IX, yeah. Okay, Pius VIII.
Pius IX said, similarly, "Whoever eats of the lamb and is not a member of the Church has profaned." Okay, it's not a disciplinary law. Something that is that profanes the soul, that puts him in a state of mortal sin, cannot be declared to be acceptable, okay, by the Church later on. It's rooted in the solemnly defined dogma of Pope Eugene IV in Denzinger 714 that the unity of this ecclesiastical body is of such importance that only for those who abide in it do the Church's sacraments contribute to salvation. The Church's sacraments only contribute to salvation to those in it. Therefore, those who receive sacraments outside the Church receive it to their own damnation. That's a dogma. The principle of non-Catholics not receiving Holy Communion is rooted in this dogma. The Vatican II anti-popes have changed this. That's a direct heresy. It absolutely proves that they are not true popes, but manifestly heretical anti-popes, and that the official teaching of the Vatican II Church is heretical. How much time is it?
You still got 45 seconds.
Oh, okay. Well, John Paul II, actually, in his general audience, August 9th, 1995, commented on this teaching. And actually, in Unum Sint number 48, he commented on it. And he said, through the participation in the sacraments and other functions and objects with these non-Catholics, he says, there must never be a loss of appreciation for the ecclesiological implication of sharing in the sacraments, especially the Holy Eucharist. Ecclesiological implication, that means church implication. He's saying that they are in the church. Okay, that's the implication of giving them the sacraments. And they've explicitly taught that they're in communion with the church many, many times.
And that's why they believe that other so-called Christians, that the Church of Christ, not just the Catholic Church, it's everybody who claims to be Christian, as is taught at Vatican II, that the Church of Christ subsists in the Catholic Church, the Church does not.
Now the seventh question for Mr. Goley.
Okay. Paul IV. Where is it now? I'm trying to get the quote here. Try to get the quote actually. Okay, in Pope Paul IV in his papal bull, he talks about how if a pope teaches error, do not follow him. Why doesn't he say he's no longer the pope if he teaches error? Why does he say do not follow him?
Okay, that's a very easily answered question. The entire bull is about how a heretic cannot be validly elected pope. Okay, and in the first part of the bull, he actually makes reference to two truths. He makes reference to the truth that no one can judge the pope, which refers to no one can subject a true bishop of Rome to a trial. Okay, and he refers to the truth that a pope can be contradicted if he should deviate in a matter of faith. He's referring to a pope who does not rise to the level of manifest heresy. That's why St. Robert Bellarmine, in a, quote, very distorted by non-Sedevacantists quite often, in chapter 29 of book 2 of his discussion of this issue, he says that if a pope tries to destroy the church, he can be resisted, but you can't depose him, okay? But in the very next chapter, he addresses the question of a manifestly heretical claimant. And he says it is certain that this guy would cease to be the pope. Okay, and so chapter 29 is talking about a pope who does things, he makes certain errors, okay, and does other bad things which don't rise to the level of manifest heresy. He can be contradicted, he can be resisted in those matters.